It's 6:10 at the airport. You guys gotta go home. Conveniently at the same time.
From the same airport.
From the same airport.
Gates next to each other. I'll be with you till the very end.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Come back.
We will. Yes. We will come back. Yes.
Come back together. This is fun.
Good.
It's like the power of one and the power of one, but when you're together, it's like the power of four.
Whoa, we're like the power of 4 people. That's pretty exciting. We could power the world. We could power the world.
After we dropped them off at the airport, we went back home and slept for a few hours just for the fact that we were really tired and we had to get up really early. We also got our turnips, because it's a Sunday, and if you're playing Animal Crossing, you have to have your turnips. Then the agenda was a Craigslist deal. I've been talking to this guy on and off for about a week. He had a copy of Earthbound that we wanted to get. And he had this copy of Earthbound, and he said he also had the guide, and he wanted too much for the guide, but what he wanted for the cart was reasonable, and I was like, okay, cool, we'll try and get another copy of Earthbound. If you're not aware, we collect copies of Earthbound. We collect all sorts of games, but we only want 1 copy of each game. But when it comes to Earthbound, we collect multiple copies. We already have 5. It's just because it's a very special game for Mal and myself. It's how we met. It's how I've known, so many different people. It's just sucked because Earthbound is such an expensive title. We don't get to pick them up all the time. Anyway, I've been talking to this guy about getting his copy of Earthbound for $100, which is pretty reasonable. It's coming down a bit. I think the current price of the cart's about $150, $160. So it was a pretty good deal. He wanted too much money for the player's guide, so we didn't talk about that. In the midst of talking about it, he had come across some other stuff. He had a copy of Dracula X, which is a very, very high price Super Nintendo game, almost as much as Earthbound, and also Mega Man X3, another very, very expensive title. Anyway, we agreed on a price for Earthbound, Dracula X, and Mega Man X3, and we agreed to meet today. So we just came from that. And here's what I discovered. When we got there, I got out of the car and was talking to the guy, and he had a whole box of games. He had a lot of different stuff. And I was looking over the games, and he didn't have Mega Man X3. He said he had already sold it, which is a little weird because we had agreed like I don't know, an hour ago that we were gonna do that, but that's okay. Anyway, he had Dracula X and Earthbound. He had some other carts. I am very used to what Earthbound looks like. I've studied Earthbound carts. I've studied the differences between real Earthbound carts and fake Earthbound carts. And this one was counterfeit. It was not real. There's a few different ways you can tell. There's an imprint on the back of Earthbound carts, which typically says 4D, and this one was not 4D. And also the front cover, the label of the Earthbound cart is going to give it away. And the reason is, it's usually not as clear. It's a little smudgy on a fake cart, and this goes for everything, not just Earthbound, but it's a little smudgy on a fake cart. And some things usually aren't quite right. Sometimes the ESRB rating sometimes isn't quite right. Sometimes some of the letters are wrong. But a huge way to tell is the fact that if you hold a real cart and a fake cart up to each other, it doesn't have to be Earthbound, just any real cart and any fake cart, you're going to notice that the sticker that the label was printed on is not the same. The one on the fake cart is going to be a little glossy, and if you touch them, they feel very, very different. It's one of those things that counterfeits have gotten really good, especially the ones I just saw. But whenever you're sitting there and you've got a real cart and a fake cart right next to each other, you really can't miss it. If in your gut you're thinking, this doesn't seem right, it's probably not. Anyway, so he had a bunch of carts there, and one of them was Earthbound, one of them was Dracula X, and both of them were fake. He said that he had picked them up at a flea market, and he thought he was getting a really good deal, and then he was going to try and resell them. And I went through everything I just told you guys, how I know it's fake, how I know it's real. And he seemed really heartbroken, and I was like, I'm sorry, but I can't buy it because it's not, it's not a real cart. Anyway, he said that he had another copy of Earthbound, and I was like, okay. So he went to the car and he got another copy of Earthbound. This one was real. And then it was real easy to show him, you know, when you have a real Earthbound card and a fake Earthbound card right next to each other, you know, the fake one looks really real, but when you have it right next to it, you can point out the little intricate details that, you know, a normal person's not going to know about. Anyway, he had that, and he had the guide with him. So we ended up not getting Dracula X and not getting Mega Man X3 because Mega Man X3 wasn't there and Dracula X was fake. But we got a real Earthbound card and another player's guide. So that's what we wound up with today.
Switch hands.
And both are real.
The guide's in nice
The guide
condition.
is in really good shape. It does not have the scratch and sniff cards. And the cart is perfect, which is, I mean, pretty cool. The cart's real, so that's exciting. So I've actually never had a chance to see in person a fake Earthbound cart. I've never seen it. I've seen fake Super Nintendo games before, and Earthbound, this copy of Earthbound and Dracula X were like some of the best fakes I'd ever seen. Like, they looked really, really real. And I actually had to do a double take on the Dracula X because I know a lot about Earthbound, but I don't know a whole lot about that game. And I had to really study it before I finally decided that that one was fake too. But yeah, it's a shame because I was really hoping we'd wind up with games that we didn't have, but instead we wound up with our 6th copy of Earthbound. But I don't have any complaints. We paid a really good price for both of the games, or for the game and the guide, and I felt it was pretty reasonable, especially for the fact that Earthbound just came out on the Wii U, and that's what the guy said. The reason the guy was getting rid of this copy of Earthbound was that he had a Wii U and he just bought it on Wii U. I was like, yeah, and it's coming down. And I do feel like the loose carts are coming down. Complete sets will probably stay high, but I think loose carts are going to continue to fall because they've already fallen quite a bit. Anyway, that's my story. So I found some fake Earthbound carts today. And it was interesting because I'd never actually gotten to see them. But now I feel a little more educated and I feel a little more confident. And remember, if you're ever buying a high-priced game from anywhere, really, I wouldn't even buy them online anymore. I'm scared to death. We don't buy copies of Earthbound or any expensive games or any games really from eBay. I would only do it online if it was a trusted seller, and if you're buying them in person where you can actually get a chance to see them. If you're buying something that costs a lot of money, get another cart. Get a cheap game that no one's going to bother making a fake of, and put them next to each other and look at them because they look different.
Things like this arrow, right? Is the arrow on every Super Nintendo cart?
The arrow is. It's
the purple
just,
arrow.
But sometimes, like, the spacing is off between things. Some stuff's not right, but the surefire way you're going to be able to tell, like, 99% of the time is that label. That label is glossy on fake ones, and it's matte on real ones. And you're just, you know, like I said, just put a real one and a fake one next to each other, you'll be able to tell the difference. Anyway, I hope this helps some of you, and we wound up with a new Earthbound cart. Now that we've got it back home, there is something that we always do when we get a new Earthbound cart. Play it! We put it in, because we want to find out the story behind the Earthbound cart. Now, this Earthbound cart and the guide, too, and I'll talk about that in a second, is in pretty much perfect condition. I mean, it is very, very pristine. This came from the person we bought it, his personal collection. In fact, the reason that he was selling his personal copy of Earthbound was because he bought it for the Wii U. He didn't need it anymore. He could play it anytime he wanted, and you guys can too. So we know that we got it from the original owner, which is really, really cool. So he's had it for, you know, probably almost 20 years. And supposedly the battery still works, so we can put it in and find out where he was in the game, as long as he didn't erase it. Well, that's a new one. Normally, whenever we get Earthbound carts, and this has been on the vlog before, we start it up and there's something a little more interesting. But it looks like either this person had erased all of their old files at one point, or never got very far in the game. Maybe he bought it and played it a little and never came back to it. This is right at the beginning.
They're using Mint.
He is, yeah, he's using Mint, which is interesting. Otherwise, he did equip the cracked bat. Otherwise, that's it. He lost a little health, and he saved without talking to Mom. And that's it. Huh. Normally it's a little more interesting than that. And so I know in some of the other ones, there's been, you know, pretty cool things. It's nice to look through people's inventories and see like what items they've went through the trouble of getting. But it's just really cool that the thing's still saved, so that's cool. That's our 6th copy of Earthbound. Do we have too many? I don't know, probably. But I don't mind. It's something that Mal and I enjoy doing, collecting, and it's fun. There's going to come a day very, very soon when we buy a copy of Earthbound. The battery's going to be dead. But right now, all of the copies of Earthbound that we have, their batteries are living. The interesting thing about that guide is that the guide was in just as good condition as the cart. The reason that's so cool is that we have 2 guides. One of them is my childhood guide, and when I was in 2nd grade, I took that book with me to school every single day, and because of that, it's a little raggedy. This guide that we got today, is the best guide that we have. It's also one of the best ones I've ever seen. It's in perfect condition, although it is very unfortunately missing the scratch and sniff cards. Anyway, that was fun. We got a copy of Earthbound, we got a new guide. They're both in amazing condition. The battery still works. I guess it doesn't have a really interesting story for the save file, but still cool. Anyway, you could talk about games you like to collect, because I know that there are people out there that collect multiple copies of games. For us, it's Earthbound. For you, it might be something else. That's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, let's meet back tomorrow, shall we?
Sky. Uh-oh, we saw him some things. That's what the stingrays look like.
I'm hidden, I don't see anybody. My sneak skill. Oh, piss! What's up, girl? Yeah, turn undead. Oh, she's too powerful for that. Well, that's exciting. You're in my way. I'm in my way!